No, I think like a lot of regulation, there's been unintended consequences, and I would argue that GDPR may in fact have entrenched big tech's position, because if you get an opt-in requirement from Google, your finger's on that accept button as soon as possible. But if you get an opt-in button from maybe the BBC or a media network that's not as strong, in addition, these companies, regulation like this is expensive and complex to adhere to. Apple's SG&A budget, I think, is $8 billion. These firms have a lot of lawyers to handle this type of thing and a lot of administration. As a matter of fact, Google was advertising to some of its biggest customers that if you spend more money with us, or if you're part of one of our advertisers, we can actually help you comply with GDPR. So they were turning a bug into a feature. So these things are regulation, and we've talked about this.
Yeah.
I think antitrust is the way to go, not regulation. But I don't know, I don't think GDPR is the role model right now.
I mean, even Amazon was expected to say in its testimony that it had to divert significant resources, both human resources and monetary resources, in order to affect GDPR. And that's Amazon, right? I mean, Amazon's got really deep pockets. But in terms of the willingness, the political will for antitrust solutions of these big tech giants, does that exist?
I'd like to think it does. I think that rather, when you vote for regulation, you're voting for the government. I think when you vote for antitrust, you're voting for competition. And the market is at a natural point in the economic...
How do you break up a Google, though?
Easy. Google Cloud, YouTube. It was broken up before. They acquired YouTube.
That doesn't change the dominant position that Google has in search. It doesn't change certain monopoly. I mean, when you say Google's a monopoly, you can say it's got 98% or whatever high percentage of all the search terms. When you break it up according to those business lines, it doesn't change that, does it?
I think, in fact, you do end up with an organization, with 3 different organizations where there's probably more hiring, probably more venture-backed companies that are looking to be bought, a broader tax base. To your point, it doesn't crack the monopoly on search.
But isn't that the whole point of antitrust? I mean, when you go into a company and say, we want to break you up for antitrust reasons, isn't it because they have a monopoly on something?
But the reason you break up a monopoly is because you want more small companies to have a shot at getting bigger. And I believe that when you have a company like Google that also controls the second largest search engine in the world, YouTube, that's bad for small companies to get out of the crib. I do think if you had 3 different companies, you would have most likely just more competition, quite frankly. And I think, for example, them going after each other, I think Google would be more inclined, if they were alone, to proactively say, we're going to regulate ourselves. Because right now, the reason Google doesn't show up to the Senate hearings when called can be explained in a number, and that's 90 or 93, and that is, they have a 90% share. So what I would ask is, if they were a search engine with 30% share, they probably would have shown up. Now, to your point, I'm not exactly sure how you, in fact, take that search share down without some sort of regulation that either creates some sort of, I don't know, tax on the data. But going to Amazon, I think Amazon in the retail community, 3rd largest employer in America, is healthier if Amazon can't subsidize their retail platform with the profits from AWS.
Right.
When the Chinese brought in steel below cost in the 80s, we called it dumping. When Amazon subsidizes the retail platform with AWS, we call it innovation.